6:44 a.m., June 19, 1944. The Philippine Sea, 210 miles west-northwest of Guam. First Lieutenant James Anthony Del Vecchio, 24 years old, is strapped into the cockpit of his Grumman F-6 F-3 Hellcat fighter on the aft flight deck of USS Lexington, CV-16, staring northwest into an empty sky that will not stay empty for long. He is a bricklayer's son from the iron-bound district of Newark, New Jersey. He graduated from Barringer High School in 1938, worked 2 years in his father's trade hauling mortar in the July heat, and enlisted in the Navy in the week after Pearl Harbor. He has flown 63 combat missions in 18 months of Pacific War. He has shot down 4 confirmed Japanese aircraft over Rabaul, Truk, and Saipan. He has watched men he loved disappear into blue water that does not give anything back. None of it has prepared him for the next 4 minutes. His aircraft Bureau number 41,188, named Widow's Kiss, in black stencil letters below the left side of the windscreen, is fully loaded. The Hellcat weighs 9,238 pounds at this fuel state. Its Pratt & Whitney R2810 double wasp engine produces 2,000 horsepower at military power. 6.50 caliber M2 Browning machine guns are seated in the wings, 3 per side, each capable of 800 rounds per minute. At full load, Del Vecchio carries 2,400 rounds total, 400 per gun. He will fire most of them in 34 seconds. The situation developing in the Lexington's Combat Information Center 3 decks below him is the largest carrier battle in history. At 6:31 a.m., the ship's SK air search radar, rotating at 1 revolution every 4 seconds on a 1.5-meter band, painted a massive inbound contact bearing 285 degrees at 72 miles. The main Japanese strike wave has already been intercepted by the Combat Air Patrol well to the northwest. But a secondary formation has separated from the main body and is bored in on a different vector. 9 aircraft, altitude 14,200 feet, speed 265 miles per hour, bearing directly for the Lexington. These are Yokosuka D-4Y Suikusai dive bombers, designated Judy by American Naval Intelligence. Each aircraft carries a single 550-pound Type 99 No. 25 bomb in an internal bay. Their HI Atsuta 32 inline engines produce 1,400 horsepower at altitude. In a vertical dive, a Judy can reach 490 miles per hour before structural failure begins, fast enough that the standard anti-aircraft fire solutions are compressed to half a second of tracking time. The Lexington is the flagship of Task Force 58. Rear Admiral Mark Mitcher commands the entire Pacific Carrier Force from her flag bridge. Her Combat Information Center coordinates the actions of 15 carriers and their air wings across 500 miles of ocean. If a single Judy reaches bomb release over her flight deck, if a single 550-pound bomb craters the wooden planking and reaches the aviation fuel manifolds below, the tactical picture of the entire Pacific war shifts. 3,000 American sailors are below those flight decks. The Combat Air Patrol is fully committed northwest. Fighter Direction Officer Lieutenant Commander Harold Purvis has vectored every available intercept asset. Every available asset except 4 Hellcats on the Lexington's aft deck, spotted for a strike mission against the Japanese fleet that has not yet launched. At 6:43 a.m., Purvis transmits on the guard channel, his voice flat and fast. Widow's Kiss flight, all aircraft, break off strike prep. Vector 285, Angels 14, Buster. 9 Judys inbound, range 40 miles, closing fast, intercept immediately. There is no cavalry, no reserve flight, no second wave. The 4 Hellcats sitting on the aft deck are the only thing standing between 9 Japanese dive bombers and a ship full of sleeping sailors. Del Vecchio launches at 6:44 a.m. He is airborne in 14 seconds, climbing at 2,900 feet per minute, full military power, northwest. 31 miles ahead, 9 pilots who have trained for this moment for years are lining up their dive sights on the gray rectangle of USS Lexington. They have 31 seconds to release point. He has 34 seconds to stop them. Section 2, Crisis Escalation. 6:44:30 a.m. The three aircraft of Del Vecchio's flight climb behind him in the gray pre-dawn. Ensign Patrick Gallagher, 22, from South Boston, Massachusetts, on his wing as Flight 2. Lieutenant J.G. Marcus Roble, 23, from Gary, Indiana, as Flight 3. Ensign Theodore Kaminsky, 22, from Buffalo, New York, as Flight 4. Kaminsky's radio has failed on the climbout, a faulty transmitter relay that the maintenance log had flagged as marginal 2 days earlier. Kaminsky knows his radio is dead. He can hear nothing. He is following Roble by sight, flying in close formation, navigating by the gestures of another man's aircraft. 4 aircraft, 4 men against 9. The math is already bad. It gets worse when Del Vecchio understands the geometry. At 6:45 a.m., cruising at 380 miles per hour at 12,000 feet and still climbing, he picks up the formation visually at 11 o'clock, slightly high. 9 dark shapes against pale blue, 9 Yokosuka D4Y suicides in a compressed V's of 3 formation, the lead V at center, 2 flanking V's stepped up 15 degrees on either side. The formation spans roughly 400 feet wingtip to wingtip at current spacing. They are flying with textbook discipline. No gaps, no stragglers. Every aircraft in that formation has a rear gunner, a single 7.9mm Type 92 machine gun in a flexible rear mount. 9 rear gunners in a compressed formation create an overlapping cone of defensive fire approximately 45 degrees wide and 30 degrees deep off the tail. A standard beam attack approaching from the side gives an intercepting fighter perhaps half a second of firing geometry before the target crosses out of the effective gun sight window. At 265 mph target speed, half a second means 194 feet of target movement during the firing pass. A head-on attack closes at combined speeds exceeding 600 mph. 2 seconds of firing window maximum. The probability of a single kill on a head-on pass against a non-maneuvering target is under 30% in fleet gunnery data. Against 9 non-maneuvering targets that are about to begin their attack dives, 30% per pass is not enough. There is no approved tactic for what Del Vecchio is looking at. The Navy's Fighter Tactics Manual, Op 770, does not address a 4-aircraft flight intercepting a 9-aircraft tight formation 18 seconds from bomb release. His squadron commander, Commander Elliot Sorensen, has specifically and explicitly told Del Vecchio that driving through the center of a formation is reckless, dangerous to the intercepting aircraft, and tactically unsound. Commander Sorensen is 3 miles south, asleep. At 6:46 a.m., Del Vecchio makes his call. His voice on the radio is flat. Combat has stripped the adrenaline from his radio manner. He sounds like he is reading a weather briefing. Widow's Kiss flight, center attack. I'm taking the light element head-on. Gallagher, stay on my wing, clear left after I break. Roble, Kaminsky, right element, go now. He rolls the Hellcat into a diving attack from above and slightly forward of the formation. The angle gives him a brief window the rear gunners cannot cover. Their weapons cannot depress far enough to track a target diving toward them from 12 o'clock high. The Judy's fixed forward armament, 2 7.7mm Type 97 machine guns, is configured for ground strafing, not air-to-air. The Japanese pilots in the forward cockpits can do nothing against an attacker diving through their 12 o'clock. This window lasts approximately 4 seconds. After that, he will be inside the formation, and everything changes. 6:46:26 a.m., 2 seconds into the attack. At 700 yards, Del Vecchio fires. 6.50 caliber Brownings at 4,800 combined rounds per minute. The sound inside the cockpit is physical force, a vibration through the airframe that runs up through the seat and into his spine. The tracer stream walks into the lead Judy's engine cowling. The HI Atsuda 32 is a liquid-cooled inline engine, more efficient than an air-cooled radial at altitude, but catastrophically vulnerable to .50 caliber strikes on its coolant and oil lines. The lead Judy explodes, not the slow Hollywood fireball. Structural disintegration, instantaneous, outward, expanding at several hundred feet per second. The Type 99 bomb in the internal bay detonates sympathetically when the Browning rounds reach it. The aircraft becomes an expanding sphere of aluminum fragments and burning aviation fuel, directly in the path of the two-wing aircraft of the lead Vs, flying 70 feet to either side. 6:46:34 a.m., 8 seconds. The right-wing aircraft of the lead element flies through the debris cloud at 265 miles per hour. The pilot has no time. Metal fragments traveling at combined velocities over 500 miles per hour strip the forward fuselage and windscreen. The aircraft rolls inverted, flat spin, 14,000 feet above the Philippine Sea. No recovery, 2 down. Del Vecchio pulls through the wreckage cloud at full throttle. The Hellcat bucks in the turbulent air. A fragment, likely a section of the lead Judy's propeller shaft, punches through the left side of his canopy 6 inches from his left ear and exits through the right side. The perspex fractures in a star pattern around 2 fist-sized holes. Wind at 380 miles per hour fills the cockpit. His knee-clip chartboard tears away and vanishes. His oxygen mask seal breaks on the left side. He is now breathing cabin air. At 14,200 feet, effective oxygen pressure is approximately 60% of sea level. He has an estimated 4 minutes before hypoxia begins to significantly degrade his decision-making. He has already used 8 seconds. Gallagher, on his wing, pulls left to avoid the debris cloud and finds himself lined up on the formation's left element, 3 Judys flying in a tight V, their lead element gone, their formation discipline already fracturing. Gallagher has a 30-degree deflection shot at 400 yards. He fires a 2-second burst and hits the lead of the left element through the cockpit. The Judy rolls left and dives away, not destroyed, but departing the attack run. The pilot is wounded or dead. The aircraft will not reach bomb release. Gallagher calls it over the radio. Splash left light. Left element is breaking. 3 aircraft out of the attack. 6 remain. 16 seconds to estimated bomb release. 6:46:44 a.m., 18 seconds. Here is where the plan comes apart. Ensign Theodore Kaminsky, radio dead, flying blind on comms, has been following Roebel's aircraft throughout the climb. He reads Roebel's bank as an attack on the right element. He follows. Roebel also attacks the right element. Both Flight 3 and Flight 4 arrive simultaneously on the same side of the formation, stacking fire where 2 aircraft were already departing. The formation's center remnant, 3 surviving Judys from the center and right groups, has no American fighter between them and the Lexington. Their formation is ragged, their lead element is gone, but their noses are dropping, dive brakes are cycling open, bomb bay doors are sliding back, they are beginning their attack run, speed increasing, altitude 13,800 feet and falling, 7 seconds to optimal release altitude. Del Vecchio sees it. He sees the 3 Judys beginning their dive. He sees Gallagher engaged left, Roebel and Kaminsky stacked right, the center run open. He reverses the Hellcat in a hard right turn. 6.2 Gs. Blood drains from his head. Vision tunnels gray at the periphery, then narrowing black. The G-suit bladders press against his thighs and abdomen. The tunnel opens again. He is inverted, pointed at the 3 diving Judys, the Philippine Sea as his background and the Lexington visible 9 miles south, a gray rectangle on blue water. He fires before the gun sight fully settles. If you want to see how James Del Vecchio stops those 3 remaining Judys in the final seconds, with a broken canopy, failing oxygen, and no standard tactic left, hit that like button. It helps us share more forgotten stories. Subscribe if you haven't already. Back to Del Vecchio. At 600 yards, firing from an inverted high-G pass at a target in a developing dive, the geometry is nearly impossible. The Hellcat's Mark 8 reflector sight is calibrated for level flight. He is not in level flight. He is upside down, pulling out of a reversal at 6.2 Gs, with hypoxia stealing 10% of his cognitive function. The rounds walk left of the trailing Judy on the first burst. He nudges right rudder, minimal, precise, and fires again. The rounds enter the trailing Judy through the tail control surfaces. The horizontal stabilizer shreds. The aircraft pitches nose up involuntarily, departing its dive. The bomb releases early at 12,600 feet, nearly 2,000 feet above optimal release altitude. At that altitude and angle, the bomb lacks the energy to reach the Lexington. It will miss by miles. 4 aircraft out of the attack. 2 Judys remain. Both are through 11,000 feet and accelerating. Section 3, the 34 seconds, final sequence. 6:46:47 a.m., 21 seconds. The 2 surviving Judys are diving clean. Their pilots have watched their formation destroyed piece by piece. They have not broken. Japanese dive bomber pilots of this period, the veterans of Midway, Coral Sea, Santa Cruz, have been training for this attack for years. They will not break for anti-aircraft fire. They will not break for a lone American fighter. They are going to release their bombs or die trying. The Lexington's anti-aircraft battery opens up from below. 24 40 Bofors cannons tracking the diving aircraft. 16 20 Oerlikon auto cannons laying curtains of tracer between 5,000 and 10,000 feet. Proximity-fused 5-inch shells from the escort destroyers burst in black puffs around the diving Judys. The sky between 8,000 and 12,000 feet is a garden of black smoke and red tracer. Neither Judy breaks. Del Vecchio pulls out of his inverted firing pass at 10,400 feet, G-forces slamming him into his seat at 7.1 Gs on the recovery. Speed 410 miles per hour. He is below the Judys now, pulling up into a near-vertical climb, the gray undersides of both aircraft directly above him and slightly forward. It is the worst firing geometry in the Hellcat pilot's handbook. Nearly vertical, closing fast, with the target's smallest cross-section presented to the gun sight. It is the only shot he has. 6:46:52 a.m., 26 seconds. The Hellcat is pointed nearly straight up. Airspeed bleeding from 410 miles per hour towards stall at a rate that gives him approximately 4 seconds of control authority. He is looking up through what remains of the shattered canopy, through 2 ragged holes in the perspex, wind screaming through at 150 knots, at a Yokosuka dive bomber 400 yards above him, bomb bay open, tracking the Lexington. He fires. A 2-second burst. 6 guns. 1,600 rounds through the air in the general shape of where the lead Judy was going to be. At this angle, gravity and the aircraft's climbing motion create a deflection that no textbook accounts for. The first burst walks left of the lead Judy. He corrects right rudder, minimal, and fires again. The second burst enters the lead Judy from directly below, through the bomb bay structure. The Type 99 bomb does not detonate. The arming vane requires 250 feet of free flight before the fuse engages. But the internal bomb bay structure collapses under the .50 caliber impact. The bomb releases prematurely at 9,800 feet, tumbling unstable into the anti-aircraft fire below. Unarmed, unable to function. 5 aircraft out of the attack. The lead Judy breaks its dive and pulls south. Her pilot is running. The aircraft is damaged and the bomb is gone, and there is nothing left to accomplish over the Lexington. 1 remains. 6:46:57 a.m., 31 seconds. The 9th Judy is through 9,500 feet and accelerating. Her pilot has tracked the Lexington through the entire 4-minute engagement, through the destruction of his formation, through the anti-aircraft fire, through the loss of every other aircraft in the wave. He has not deviated. His release point is 7,500 feet. He is 11 seconds from that altitude. The Hellcat stalls. At the top of its near-vertical climb, airspeed falling through 71 miles per hour, the aircraft runs out of lift. The nose drops. For 1.8 seconds, Del Vecchio is in ballistic free fall, not spinning, but not flying. During those 1.8 seconds, he has no aerodynamic control over the aircraft whatsoever. He fires during the stall. It is not in any tactics manual ever written. A Hellcat in freefall, firing 6.50 caliber machine guns simultaneously, is a platform vibrating at its own natural frequencies: engine vibration, airframe buffet, gun recoil, uncontrolled yaw. The rounds do not travel where the gun sight indicates. They travel in a pattern influenced by every variable simultaneously. At 280 yards, the dispersion pattern of 6 guns firing creates a beaten zone approximately 30 feet wide and 15 feet tall. The trailing edge of that beaten zone intersects the cockpit of the 9th Judy at 6:47:01 a.m. The Japanese pilot dies immediately. Without a hand on the controls, the Judy continues its dive on momentum, then departs controlled flight as aerodynamic forces overwhelm the trimmed descent angle. It rolls right, nose pitching up, and begins to break apart in the structural loads of uncontrolled pullout at 8,200 feet. The Type 99 bomb, still armed, still live, releases ballistic and strikes the Philippine Sea 340 yards off the Lexington's port bow 19 seconds later. The geyser of white water rises 40 feet above the surface. The Lexington is untouched, 34 seconds from first shot to last. 7 of 9 aircraft removed from the attack by Del Vecchio's flight. The other 2, broken off independently, are subsequently splashed by the destroyer screen's anti-aircraft fire. None of the 9 reach bomb release over the ship. None of their bombs land on American steel. 6:47:12 a.m. The Hellcat recovers from the stall at 8,600 feet. Del Vecchio pulls out in a wide arc, the aircraft sluggish in thin air. His left hand is shaking. He looks at it the way you look at something you don't quite recognize. The wind through the shattered canopy is deafening. The oxygen mask hangs loose on the left side. His right palm, he will discover later, has been cut to the bone by a perspex shard driven through his flight glove at some point in the engagement. He doesn't know when. He cannot feel it, he calls the flight. Widow's kiss, all call signs report. Gallagher, 2's up, 1 splash, 1 diverted. Minor damage to the starboard wingtip, I'm flying. Roble, 3's up, 2 confirmed splashes on the right element. No damage. Kaminsky does not respond. His radio is still dead. But Del Vecchio can see bureau number 40,923, Kaminsky's aircraft, 1,200 feet below, trailing a thin white line of vapor from behind the left engine cowling. Not fire, coolant vapor from a damaged oil cooler line. The R2800 engine itself, air-cooled radial, does not need the oil cooler to keep running. Not for a few minutes, not at reduced power. Del Vecchio slides alongside Kaminsky at 7,400 feet. For 4 minutes, the 2 aircraft fly south in silence. The vapor thins. The engine continues to run. Kaminsky looks across the gap between aircraft and holds up 4 fingers. 400 RPM below normal. Running, they will make it. At 7:23 a.m., all 4 aircraft of Widow's Kiss flight are in the Lexington's landing pattern. Gallagher lands first, then Roble. Kaminsky lands third, his aircraft trailing oil on final approach. The LSO waves him aboard with urgency, and he catches the number 3 wire and rolls to a stop with the engine beginning to run rough. Mechanics are under the aircraft before the chocks are seated. Del Vecchio lands last. He catches the number 2 wire, rolls out, and sits in the cockpit for 45 seconds. The plane captain, machinist's mate first class Raymond Chu of San Francisco climbs up to help him out. Chu looks at the twin holes in the canopy, looks at Del Vecchio, says nothing. There is nothing to say. Section 4, Aftermath. 7:51 a.m., the Lexington's flight surgeon, Lieutenant Commander David Brannigan, conducts the physical inventory in the squadron ready room. Left ear, temporary threshold shift, approximately 40% reduction in hearing, caused by the propeller fragment passing 6 inches from the tympanic membrane. Expected to recover 80 to 100% within 72 hours. Right palm, a 3.2 centimeter laceration through the flight glove and into the palm, deep enough to require 4 sutures but clear of tendons. Del Vecchio did not notice it during the engagement. He lost a moderate amount of blood into the glove over the course of the flight without knowing. Hypoxia exposure, mild, resolved on descent through 10,000 feet, no lasting effect expected. Brannigan sutures the hand, applies a compression wrap, and grounds Del Vecchio for 48 hours. Del Vecchio does not argue. He sits in the ready room chair while Brannigan works and stares at the bullhead across from him and says nothing for 20 minutes. The Battle of the Philippine Sea continues through the day. By evening, the full scale of what American fighter pilots have accomplished is becoming clear. Japanese carrier air power has been broken, 373 aircraft destroyed against 23 American losses. The carriers Teiho, Shikaku, and Hio go to the bottom before the battle concludes. The engagement will be called the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot by the American pilots who flew it, a nickname that will stick in history books for generations. Jisaburo Ozawa's carrier fleet ceases to be a strategic threat to American operations in the Pacific after this day. The Lexington's damage control log for June 19, 1944, between 6:46 and 6:47 a.m., records one entry: splash, close aboard, port bow 340 yards. No damage. That is the entire record of what 4 young men in Hellcat fighters did to 9 Japanese dive bombers in the pre-dawn sky over the Philippine Sea. Commander Elliot Sorensen, the squadron commander who told Del Vecchio never to drive through a formation center, listens to the full action debrief at 9:15 a.m. without expression. When Del Vecchio finishes the account of the stall firing pass on the 9th Judy, Sorensen is silent for a long moment. Then he says, "It worked." He does not say anything else. The cost of the engagement does not appear on a single morning's ledger. It spreads across the following weeks. At 4:15 p.m. On June 19th, the Lexington launches a strike to chase the Japanese fleet. One of the pilots in that wave is Ensign Raymond Bernard Hopper, 22 years old, of Terre Haute, Indiana, a member of Del Vecchio's own squadron, one of the men who had been spotted on deck for the strike mission that was scrubbed when the Judys appeared. Hopper's aircraft is hit by anti-aircraft fire over the Japanese screening force at 6:22 p.m., 40 miles north of Rota Island. The aircraft goes into the water. No parachute is observed. Hopper is listed missing in action, subsequently confirmed killed in action. He is 22 years old. His mother, Agnes Hopper, receives the telegram in Terre Haute on June 26. Del Vecchio writes to her on June 22 before the Navy notification reaches her. The letter takes 6 weeks. He writes it in one sitting at the ready room desk, tears up the first 3 attempts, and sends the 4th. On July 4, 1944, Ensign Daniel Parrish Esterhuisen, 23 years old, from Charlotte, North Carolina, another member of the squadron, dies when a catapult malfunction causes his aircraft to fail to clear the deck on launch. The Hellcat strikes the forward gun sponson. Esterhuisen is recovered from the water by small boat, but dies of blunt force trauma in the Lexington's sick bay 90 minutes after impact. It is Independence Day. The carrier's chaplain conducts a brief service that evening. Del Vecchio stands at the back of both memorial services. He holds his flight cap in his bandaged right hand. He does not speak at either. On August 12, 1944, the Navy Crossboard approves Commander Sorensen's combat action recommendation. The citation is 6 sentences. It credits Del Vecchio with 2 confirmed aerial kills. describes the engagement as exemplary tactical innovation under fire, and attributes the Lexington's survival from the 6:46 a.m. attack in material part to the actions of Widow's Kiss flight. Admiral Mark Mitcher pins the decoration to Del Vecchio's uniform on August 19, 1944, on the Lexington's hangar deck in front of the assembled air wing. Mitcher, a compact, weathered officer with a reputation among his pilots as the finest carrier commander in the Navy, says only this: "You put yourself between the ship and those bombers, that's what this is for." Del Vecchio finishes the war with 9 confirmed aerial kills, one short of the formal double ace threshold. He never discusses the June 19th engagement publicly. When asked about it in later years, he consistently redirects to his flight mates, to Hopper and Esterhazy, to the mechanics who kept his aircraft flying. He is discharged from the United States Navy on November 14, 1945, at the rank of lieutenant. He is 25 years old. He takes a bus from San Francisco to Newark. He does not fly again for 11 years. Section 5. Post-War Legacy. James Anthony Del Vecchio returns to the iron-bound district of Newark, New Jersey, in November 1945, and does not explain to his family what the Navy Cross is for. His father, Antonio Del Vecchio, bricklayer, Calabrian immigrant man who never finished the 6th grade, hangs the metal box on the wall of the front room without asking permission. James asks him to take it down. Antonio refuses. The medal stays on the wall for 43 years. Del Vecchio enrolls at Rutgers University on the GI Bill in 1946. He studies civil engineering. He graduates in 1950 and is hired by the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, where he works for 35 years, eventually serving as chief structural engineer for the Bridges Division. He oversees the inspection programs for the Goethals Bridge and the Outer Bridge crossing through the 1970s. He is responsible for structures that carry tens of millions of people across water every year. He is meticulous. He marries Elena Russo of Newark's Vailsburg neighborhood in March 1951. They have 3 children: Anthony, born 1952, Maria, born 1954, Robert, born 1957. He gets his private pilot certificate in 1956 and flies a Cessna 172 out of Essex County Airport for 20 years, instrument rated, always current, always careful. He stops flying in 1976 when his eyesight begins to deteriorate. He never discusses the F6F with the men in his flying club. Marcus Roble, Gary, Indiana, contacts Del Vecchio in 1952. They exchange letters twice a year for the rest of their lives. Roble finishes the war with 6 aerial kills and returns to Indiana to teach high school history in Merrillville for 31 years. He visits Del Vecchio in Newark in 1967 with his wife and 2 children. Del Vecchio's youngest son, Robert, 10 years old, asks Roble what the war was like. Roble says, "Your father saved my life, that's what the war was like." Del Vecchio asks him not to say that again. Roble says it anyway, at every reunion they attend. Theodore Kaminsky, Buffalo, New York, becomes a machinist at Bethlehem Steel's Lackawanna plant after discharge. He works the floor for 30 years until the mill closes in 1983. He attends 3 Carrier Air Wing 16 reunions between 1968 and 1979. At all 3, he and Del Vecchio sit together and talk not about the war but about Raymond Hopper and Daniel Esterhazy, about what those 2 men might have become, what they might have built, who they might have loved. Patrick Gallagher, South Boston, is killed in a traffic accident in Boston in September 1953. He is 31 years old. Del Vecchio drives to Boston alone for the funeral. He sits in the back of the church. Elena Del Vecchio dies in 2001. James Anthony Del Vecchio dies on March 14, 2009, in Newark, New Jersey. He is 89 years old. His son Anthony donates his Navy Cross, his aviator wings, and his discharge papers to the National Naval Aviation Museum in Pensacola, Florida. The museum's accession record describes the donation in 11 words: personal effects of Lt. James A. Del Vecchio, USN, VF-16, 1944. It is the most understated sentence in a display case full of extraordinary things. Section 6. Closing engagement. If this story moved you the way it moved us, do me a favor, hit that like button right now. Every single like tells YouTube to show this story to more people, to people who have never heard of the Battle of the Philippine Sea, to people who have never heard the name James Del Vecchio. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We are in those archives every single day, pulling stories like this one out of the dark, stories about lone pilots over blue water, about shattered canopies and broken oxygen masks, about 34 seconds that changed everything. Real people, real heroism. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. Are you in the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, the Philippines? Our community stretches across the entire world. You are not just a viewer. You are part of keeping these memories alive. Tell us your location. Tell us if someone in your family served in the Pacific. Tell us if you knew about the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot before today. Just let us know you're here. Thank you for watching. And thank you for making sure James Anthony Del Vecchio and the men of Carrier Air Wing 16 don't disappear into silence. Raymond Bernard Hopper died on June 19, 1944, 40 miles north of Rhode Island, the same day his squadron saved the ship he never came back to. He was 22 years old. Daniel Parrish Esterhuisen died on July 4, 1944, in the sick bay of USS Lexington, 90 minutes after the water pulled him in. He was 23 years old. They never came home. But the men who survived carried their memory forward for decades in Indiana and New York and Buffalo and South Boston, across kitchen tables and reunion halls and the front rooms of houses in the iron-bound district of Newark for 60 years and more. And now, through this story, their names live on. These men deserve to be remembered. And yours helping make that happen.